She's back. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. See, told you I'd be back. During my 13 Days of Horrible Crafts series this year, I dipped my toe into the resin world and quite enjoyed myself. Okay, I didn't really dip my toe. Resin is not something you want on your skin, which is why you'll see me wearing gloves throughout my upcoming videos. But I found that I really enjoyed working with resin and making cool things. So I'll be posting some videos of the cool things I'm making. Just a disclaimer, please keep in mind that resin is very caustic and can cause a lot of medical problems. So I always recommend wearing gloves and a respirator if you're working with resin. I bought my respirator at Home Depot. They're not inexpensive. It was about 60 bucks, I think, 60 to 80. I can't really remember. But, you know, the cost is kind of worth the safety of my lungs, you know. I also got my gloves at Home Depot, which only had this extra large size. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but my hands are very small. So the gloves are a struggle, but they're better than nothing. But don't worry, I actually bought some small gloves off of Amazon, which are really, really small, and my hands barely fit in, but again, better than nothing. But in today's video, I'm making some fall coasters. I've pulled some sequins, glitter, and fake skeleton leaves out to place in the coasters. I'm currently using a 2-part epoxy resin that has a pretty long working time, but it's always advised that you get everything you are planning to use in your pieces pulled and ready before you start working with the resin. This resin has a 1-to-1 ratio, but there are some resins out there that have different ratios, like 70% resin to 30% hardener. So if you don't feel like doing math, like I don't, I can't math, you know, a 1-to-1 ratio is going to be your go-to. Also keep in mind that there are several different types of resin out there. Some are softer settings, so like they'll still have some bend to them if you make really thin pieces, and some set a lot harder. So it all depends on the type of resin pieces you're making as to which resin you should go with. When mixing your resin together, always mix for longer than you think you need to. Resin is very finicky, so if it's not mixed completely, your project will not cure correctly, and you'll have wasted lots of resin, which can get expensive. Another great tip is to know how much resin your mold needs. So for me, I've found the easiest way is to fill my mold up with water until it's full, and then pour that water into a measuring cup to see how much resin you'll need. With these coasters in particular, they take 125 milliliters of resin each. That's if you want to fill them up all the way, which they're thick boys. They're very thick. So actually, I started not filling them completely when I make new coasters, because it's a lot. I'd also recommend using a heat gun to pop the bubbles as they rise instead of a torch. Torching can damage the mold itself and fuse the resin to the mold, destroying it. So a heat gun works well for popping bubbles. It's the better choice of the two. Now, as you can see, I'm placing the sequins in first because I want those at the top of my coaster, and I'm submerging them completely, making sure there are no bubbles trapped under them. I'll do the same with the skeleton leaves, pushing them in slowly with my stick, starting at one end of the leaf so that any air that would be trapped under the leaf was able to make its way out. This does take quite a bit of time to do this part slowly, but if your end goal is to have coasters without air bubbles, it's definitely worth the time you take to do this. And finally, I pour my remaining resin with glitter in it, popping any of the bubbles with my heat gun and making sure they are sitting level. There's nothing worse than unmolding your coasters to find that they are lopsided. Now, this resin in particular, I like to leave for at least 24 hours before demolding and a further 48 before it's completely set. Cure time does differ for different resins, so make sure you pay attention to cure time for any resin you plan to work with. And here's the finished project. I tried to say both at the same time, so it sounded weird. I really like these coasters, and I'm planning to set up either an Etsy or Shopify shop with my creations. So if you're interested in that, check back at a later date. It'll probably be very, very much later than right now. I'll probably announce the shop being set up here or on Instagram. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed watching me make these coasters. Stay tuned for my next project, which is a very pretty wine butler. Until then, take care and have a wonderful day.